Okay. So Andy, you kind of jokingly, I think, said after the last game you weren't going to watch the 0-0 draw again in a hurry. I'm sure you've taken it into consideration for your look back and your preparations this time out. What's the overriding message been to your players this week after that performance and result?
Well, yeah, I did watch it back, as I always do. Excuse me. It's about building on those solid foundations. It was our primary focus last week to be hard to create against, to ideally keep a clean sheet, which we did. We had to show lots of qualities to do that, and we have to be consistent with that without the ball. But we also have to be much more effective in possession as well, because we had very limited control of any part of the game. It was that type of game. Both teams, lots of goal kicks and lots of long throws and lots of stoppages, etc. So it was a game of very few opportunities, very few clear-cut chances. So a bit important that after our last couple of away performances that we were much harder to play against, much harder to score against, and we deservedly got the point. We would like to be much better in possession, obviously. And I say it's about trying to find that balance between being good with and without the ball.
How do you sort of, obviously you hit that clean sheet at the weekend, how do you find that balance, and how do you sort of not sacrifice some of that defensive stability? Is it a case of sometimes you just have to take a few more risks and hope that your foundations are still there?
Yeah, our defensive organisation, you're always going to rely on that to make sure you're in the game. Yeah, you mentioned one thing about taking more risks. We have to be more reliable with the ball. Everywhere on the pitch, individually and collectively, and we have to try and sustain more attacks as well, and we have to utilise the strengths of the players we've got in the team. When you make changes, those strengths change and alter again a little bit as well. So it's about trying to find that balance with and without the ball.
It's 5 League Two games without a win, which I think is the longest run without a win under your stewardship. Does that play on your mind at all, these winless runs or runs of form, or is it more something that fans and media talk about?
No, I think it's only when you mention it. Now, listen, of course I'm aware of the situation. In terms of points gained in the month of September, we didn't gain enough points. It's about me and us trying to work through that process of where we actually are. I'm going to come back to the amount of people we brought in the summer, and unfortunately the amount of people we've got out injured currently, and we've had to make a number of changes to the team, it seems, on consecutive games throughout the month of September. But we have to try to be more consistency in our play, both with and without the ball.
I know injuries are obviously a part of football. Do you feel like at the moment you're being dealt a particularly hard hand?
I think some players have picked up injuries where they've been really durable and reliable in their career previously. So you never know how you're going to pick up an injury, who's going to pick up an injury. Most of them have been contact injuries, which you obviously can't do anything about. And then if there's been any muscle injury, we've looked into the reasons why and can we identify something so it doesn't happen again. But to have 7 players unavailable in the squad size we've got, obviously doesn't make it easy for us to be consistent in our selection, in how we're trying to play the game as well. But it is what it is. Every team will unfortunately have injuries. It's how you try and manage through that situation.
I know you mentioned before as well about you don't want anyone to be comfortable thinking that I've got a place in the starting 11, there's no challenge to me here. Are you afraid that might set in a little bit just because there aren't the players available? It's
important that we all maintain our own high standards individually, and they will always be measured by that. There will come a time in the future when we have more players available to pick from, and I won't forget what's happened, and I've said this to the players. At this moment in time, we've only got a certain amount of players to pick from, but we are all in charge of our own performance here and obviously on match day when it's the most important. And I come back to it, you ultimately are judged on match day. So make sure you've got your own high standards yourself, and if we can do that individually and collectively, our performance levels and results should pick up.
I know a number of your injuries are not short-term ones, but do you have anybody making a comeback potentially this weekend?
Well, Sam Finley's ban is now over, excuse me, and he's been back with us now training for a number of weeks. We haven't been able to arrange a game behind closed doors simply because of the amount of injuries we've got, and we can't afford to risk anyone else in those kinds of situations. But he's now back, he's now available to the group. It's good to have him back. Judging him on the pitch, he was really good for me last season in that 13 games towards the end of the season, and he comes back into the group and he's now available for selection.
Just on Sam Finley's return, obviously the nature of why he was suspended, the homophobic remark, are you hopeful that fans will welcome him back into the side?
I think, listen, everyone's going to have the viewpoint on what was said and what punishment Sam got. That's in the past. It's been decisions being made by the FA and by the football club, and we move on.
And you're happy that's been dealt with internally in terms of the disciplinary and anything like that?
That was dealt with months ago in terms of what happened with Sam. Obviously, he got an FA ban and an FA fine. There's obviously an internal inquest into it from the football club, and that's been dealt with privately.
And from the footballing side, obviously you hinted there at some behind closed doors games may well have benefited him. Do you have to be careful with him, reintroducing him to regular first team football?
We do. We've had to be careful integrating back into regular training because obviously he was out for a long period of time, but we've managed that situation really well, or we think we have so far. So he's gone back to back now training sessions, so I'd say for 3 weeks. He's integrated himself back into the group, initially with non-contact, but he's been back in full contact training now for a good period of time, 2.5 weeks, saying it's coincided with the ban ending and his injury coming to an end as well, and they say he's now back and available for selection. See what he does on the football pitch. That's where we're going to judge him.
And it's Bromley this weekend. What kind of threat are you expecting from them?
A former colleague of mine in charge, in Andy Woodman, I think their rise last season after coming up from the National League and challenging at the top of League Two for long periods was really good. They've tweaked one or two things in terms of formation this season to what they were doing last season, but they've got their strengths, they've got their own identity. We have to be ready for that. We have to match that. They are going to put us under pressure. They want to play the ball and play the game ideally for them in their final third. So we have to be ready for that. We have to match that. We have to be as effective as we were last week without the ball, and we have to stand up to the physicality of their team. But we have to have a better blend of out and in possession than we had last week, where I say we were really good without the ball, but in possession we didn't do hardly anything within the game. We only had one shot, I think, on target. So it's about being, as I say, being effective with and without the ball.
Do you get extra wary of a player like Michael Cheek, who scored 25 goals last season?
Extra wary, no. We're aware of his strengths, obviously, and how effective he was for them last season, and what supply he needs to be effective. I think he relies on certain elements of his team and their team structure to be effective. But so we're aware of what Bromley want to do with the ball, and we're also aware of how they try to press, etc., etc.
Do you take confidence from the fact that, okay, the teams might be slightly different, but Tranmere winning this fixture last season, does that give you and the team confidence that, you know, we've won here recently, we can do it again?
There's maybe one or two people who are still here. Obviously, I wasn't at the football club then. I've never been to Bromley's ground. It's one of the ones I need to tick off. So looking forward to the game. We're ready for the game. We know what's coming. It's a long trip for us tomorrow, but we're ready.
Okay, thank you, Andy.
Thank you very much.